minutes past on mine. It's 2 minutes past. I'm going to kick off and say hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for this really interesting topic around sourcing optimization, which is key to Samsung's transformation initiative. In this instance, everybody loves a case study from a customer who's implemented something. So I'm absolutely delighted to be talking about this with Radu today. I just want to first of all introduce our speakers. First of all, myself, I'm Jenny Draper, and I'm the Global Head of Client Services and the General Manager for all things that happen for Spend Matters in UK and Europe. I'll talk a little bit about Spend Matters afterwards, but more importantly, I'm going to introduce Radu and then Jennifer. So Radu, if you just say hi, that'd be fantastic.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, everyone.
Great. And Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here today.
Fantastic. And in terms of the agenda, just looking through what we want to talk about today, this is not about me. I'm just going to be asking some questions to Radu, really, and also to Jennifer later on. I want to talk about, ask questions to Radu about Samsung's journey around logistics supply chain, benchmarking the project. How did they get to choose the solution that they chose, which was Keelvar, and what was that project all about? How did they evaluate what they needed to get to that solution? The sourcing optimization side of Keelvar, I think everyone's going to be interested around sourcing optimization. Massive topic for us at Spend Matters as well is sourcing optimization, Samsung's adoption and benefits, and looking ahead as well at Samsung and what their journey entails going forward. So first of all, just a quick, for those of you that don't know who Spend Matters are, take a look at the website. It's free. It's all about technology. So source to pay technology. We have a bunch of analysts that write some really detailed, gritty stuff around a load of technology. But we only do that in the source to pay arena. So if you're looking at technology, if you're looking at making tech selections, take a look at what Spend Matters is saying, and you'll find loads of useful stuff there. That's really all I need to say about Spend Matters. Just take a look at it and see if that information is useful for you. But I think more importantly, it's more about Samsung's transformation journey. So Radu, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about Samsung Electronics?
Yes, Jenny, of course. Thank you very much for your invitation, and also the time that you're going to give us today to speak about our, let's say, transformation journey, and especially in this case with Keelvar. Yeah, I think everyone here more or less should have some idea about what Samsung Electronics is doing. Of course, we sell the so-called, the well-known mobile phones. But this is, let's say, a more recent endeavor that we've been doing. Samsung has been established in 1969 in Seoul, in South Korea, and it is present all over the world, except the mobile phone that is our, let's say, sexiest product. We also sell high-end television sets and white goods such as, let's say, washing machines, refrigerators, dryers, and so on. Maybe one aspect that people are not really familiar with about Samsung is that Samsung is also a very important player in the semiconductor market. Talking about shortages today, there is a big shortage right now in the world for the chip manufacturers, and this also affects Samsung. So yeah, this is, in a nutshell, this is what Samsung Electronics is. If we move, let's say, if we zoom in into Samsung Electronics in Europe, yeah, maybe I have to disclose that I am based in the Netherlands, where our logistics subsidiary's main headquarters is located. We are in Europe. Our presence is based on 22 subsidiaries, 18 sales subsidiaries, one logistics subsidiary, that would be where I work, and 3 factories which are located in Eastern and Central Europe. When it comes to our job, what we manage, it's not that we have a, let's say, a complex job, because we have to manage 23 distribution centers scattered all over Europe. 4 of them are so-called central distribution centers, which supply more than one market, so more than one country. But we also have around 20 small local warehouses that would be designed to supply just the local market. If you break your, let's say, your screen phone, and you need to replace it immediately, we supply those screens from 2 service depots, which are located in the Netherlands and in Slovakia. To put a little bit more into perspective the scope of our work, I think we can, let's say, make a comparison that we manage 45 football fields when it comes to the footprint that we cover in Europe.
And I think as soon as you started talking about breaking a screen, I think then it all became very relevant to everybody listening. And what I'd like to do really, now that we've had that overview from Samsung, is first of all, and if people didn't see from the first screen what your role is, Radu, I'd love you to explain what your role is in the whole of the procurement side of Samsung. And also, if we move on to the next screen, what the procurement challenge was that Samsung faced, and how did Samsung go about addressing that?
Right. Yeah. So my role is I work in the contracts and innovation team. So my pure role is managing a 4PL. Actually, a 4PL that is a different Samsung entity, and they are the middleman between the sales subsidiary, the Samsung sales subsidiary, and the actual logistics service provider. We manage personally, I manage the Western European countries. But we also have our counter party in Slovakia, where our colleagues are managing the eastern part of Europe. When it comes to, let's say, our challenge, actually, the whole story starts in 2019 when we approached a very, let's say, famous consultancy company to understand our competitiveness on the logistics market. So we wanted to put it in simple terms. We wanted to benchmark our logistics costs to understand where we are standing compared to our competitors. One thing led to another, and 2 months later, in March 2019, we got our first, let's say, results from the consultancy company that we teamed up. And of course, some of the findings were related to our processes as well. And one of them was that there are some improvement opportunities that could be done to streamline our, let's say, tendering process. This would bring not only cost benefits, but also, let's say, time benefits. And that is something that in recent years, time is becoming of, let's say, utmost importance, especially that resources are getting scarcer and the scope is getting bigger. In August, several months later, yeah, we also have some other, let's say, tasks on the side. So this was not exactly the main project at that point. So in August 2019, we started officially the e-sourcing project when, to be honest, I just went online and tried to find different sources of, let's say, suppliers that could provide us with e-sourcing tool. A couple of months later of discussing to people and then Googling, we came up with a long list of suppliers. I think there were around 10 companies that I approached. But in the end, based on our requirements, we narrowed it down to actually 4 finalists, and one of them being Keelvar, as you can imagine. After that, things went quite fast, actually, because we wanted to start 2020, on the right step, in the sense that we wanted to launch our first RFQ in 2020 using the new sourcing optimization platform. So between November and December, within 1 month, we had a lot of calls with suppliers, analysis, debates with our senior stakeholders to understand what is the best way to go forward. Things went fast. Before Christmas, we were already signing the contract with Keelvar, and then just fresh after the Christmas and then New Year's break, at that point, COVID was not in Europe. We went back to the office and we rolled up our sleeves and we started the first RFQ in partnership with Keelvar. Coincidentally, the first RFQ was also our biggest RFQ back then. So to give you an idea of how big our RFQ was, we had over 400 invites sent. We had 4 rounds. I think it took around 2.5 months. And in the end, the spend that we have for this business, it's factory outbound distribution, that is around 100 million euros annually. We awarded it to 100 different LSPs, different service providers. So it was the most complex RFQ that we launched as the first, let's say, tender with Keelvar, and things went well.
So not exactly a soft introduction to the new technology. It was big bang. I'd invite everybody, if there's those people who are listening and have already got questions lined up, there is a Q&A widget, so please pop your questions in there and we will answer as many of those as we can when we finish off talking. So please do ask any questions that you want, particularly of Radu, who's first-hand experience is going to be really valuable. Another question for you really now, Radu, what was the process for evaluating the technology and why did you choose Keelvar? You said that you invited others. Why Keelvar?
Yeah, indeed. So actually the process of evaluation was quite difficult for me personally, because it was the first time we're actually evaluating something else. We normally do tenders for transportation and warehousing, logistics in general. And this time was something different. I was supposed to evaluate a software that would, let's say, change the process. So it's kind of, you have to have in mind change management. You have to have in mind totally different things than what you're used to. So I hope that this information that I'm going to share now will be valuable for our viewers, because this is something that I didn't really find online. This is something that we put together as a team. We looked at 3 different things, 3, let's say, call them 3 evaluation buckets. Project management, because we wanted something that will make things easier for our members in terms of project management. We did not want to burden them. We are looking to work smarter. So we wanted to understand how such a tool could make, let's say, streamline our process. We also looked at the actual tendering, so the actual RFQ, how easy it is to launch an RFQ, or what kind of, let's say, factors does this tender tool take into account? Can we implement everything that we do offline now? When I mean offline, I'm referring to the good old email and Excel. Can we implement everything that we're doing right now into a smarter process? And of course, that is possible because the new tools have such capability, of course. We also wanted to, let's say, give some kind of, let's say, extra intelligence to our buyers, and for example, bid validation and bid coverage and bidder expressive feedback are functionalities that help make our lives easier, because this is something that Keelvar takes care of and we don't have to bother that much. And from an analysis and optimization point of view, this is maybe the most difficult part, because you can have good buyers that people can negotiate with service providers, but they also need to have the skills to make a proper analysis to optimize the cost. And this is something that I think it is very valuable in an e-sourcing, let's say, platform such as Keelvar, because it gives more insight into the cost. Or into the analysis that you need to do, because you don't have, let's say, you don't really need to take only cost into account, but there are all other rules as well. and it brings more, let's say, intelligence to the table when it comes to the optimization.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I also had to, let's say, sell it internally. We have a very strict president that, yeah, he likes my story, but he also wants to see how this can be implemented within Samsung. And for, let's say, for internal approval, I looked at the 5 different factors that we can just see on the screen now. We wanted something that is cost efficient. Of course, everyone is looking at a good return on investment, something that pays back in the shortest, in the quickest time frame. We also looked at how flexible are these platforms at offering us licensing. We were not sure at that point in time. Yeah, are we going to end up having 5 users, or are we going to use? We're going to have 20 users in Keelvar. So we were just dipping our toes into the e-sourcing water, and we didn't really want to just jump head first. As mentioned before, we signed the contract in December, and we started mid-January. Therefore, we didn't really have time for, let's say, implementation or training. We wanted something that can be done quick, that doesn't require many resources on our side. We actually didn't have any resources to allocate, especially that during that period it is, well, pretty much everyone is off. Everyone wants to enjoy their time with their family. And in addition, we did not have time for trainings. We did not have time to fly people to a different country for a week or 2 weeks, even though that's really fun, and that was still possible before COVID outbreak. But we didn't really have the time to do so. So we also took that into account. And least, but of course, very important factor was the contract duration. As I said, we were just dipping our toes into this water, and we were not sure if the fit is not good. Yeah, if the e-sourcing platform that we're going to use is not a good fit for us, then we should also have some kind of an exit strategy in order to move to something else. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, for me, this is a really valuable slide. This is real hands-on. How do you evaluate technology? What the process that you went through? It's very, very practical. So I imagine, I mean, all of this bundled up, and it's very honest, Radu, as well. It's a very honest look at your process. So all of these factors together, I mean, you know, obviously the answer here was moving towards Keelvar, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about those and the benefits that you got from that. But I think first off, I think this will be a really good segue and opportunity just to get from Jennifer at Keelvar a little bit more information on the Keelvar platform. You know, what is it that was attractive to you, Radu, that made you select it? So Jennifer, could you tell us a little bit more about the Keelvar platform?
Yeah, sure. Hi, thanks, Jenny. And Radu, that's a really great setup, and it's always fantastic to hear, you know, the background of these stories. And I have to chuckle when you say that you dipped your toes into it with $100 million worth of spend for your first event. But, you know, that is something that we see a lot with our customers as we onboard them with our sourcing optimizer. You know, we've been around for 8 years and have a pretty more modern, streamlined approach to sourcing optimization, but we're also starting to push forward with more and more automation capabilities to make these tools and this functionality much easier to adopt internally, as you heard from Radu, and how quickly their team was able to get up and running. The spectrum of sourcing that we're addressing at Keelvar ranges in complexity as well as bid frequency. So as you heard from Radu, you have these highly strategic, large scale spends that are much more complex in nature, that are perhaps bid less frequently. They're typically annual sourcing events, and those are ideal for sourcing optimization. But then, you move into kind of more routine and tactical spending and tendering and RFPs that happen throughout the year, all the way into operational sourcing activities such as reactive spot bidding that we're seeing a lot in the market, particularly on logistics right now. And what Keelvar is able to offer is sourcing optimization that handles those events with larger complexity, that are perhaps bid less frequently, but also pushing those optimization capabilities through automation to these more routine and smaller scale, less strategic events that have to occur throughout the year. And we're doing that through more and more automation within our solution set. Our products are the sourcing optimizer that Radu is talking about, that allows you to do the optimization capabilities, but it has these workflow automations that allow you you and your team members to get up and running much faster and start to execute these complex events in a more automated and centralized way. We have our sourcing bots that are available on the logistics side that help with a routine and frequent spot bidding activity. And then we have our digital rate card repository in Fulfillment Optimizer that keeps track of all of this. Radu is talking today about the logistics side at Samsung, and I know he's going to make reference later to how Samsung will be expanding that across more spend categories. But this type of complexity, we're seeing more and more across other categories where you're no longer just making supplier decisions based on lowest price. The awarding allocation decisions are starting to get more complicated, not just in transportation, but in packaging and direct materials, indirects such as, extensive facility services that need to be localized across an entire national or global network, MRO, even marketing services. We're seeing customers doing well there. So anywhere where you're seeing the need to invite more suppliers to create more competitive tension, you don't want to be limited on size and scope because of manual challenges that you might have with spreadsheets or other basic e-sourcing tools. And you want to be able to have, as Radu explained, that ability to make award decisions that might be split across multiple suppliers or carriers, that might need to be optimized around lowest risk or best value or creative packaging that bidders submit as part of their bids. So all of that can be modeled across all of these different spend categories. And we're supporting that throughout our entire customers. Samsung is one of many customers that we're very proud and thrilled to have on board. And we do try to really take a very customer-centric focus to implementing and supporting our customers. So you'll see we have, across electronics manufacturing, retail, medical, pharma, automotive, packaging, food and beverage, consumer goods. So our customers, these are not all of them, but these are many of them that run the gamut. So at that, I'm going to stop my quick Keelvar.
Well, I've got a question for you, Jennifer. Yeah. I just want to, so I think it was really good to see some of those categories that you do source. I think for those who are listening, just to see categories that are relevant to them, and that the platform is very adept at handling, and in terms of complexity, I think is great to see. Something from my side, actually, from my Spend Matters hat, is, I'm obviously talking to a lot of the tech vendors day in and day out, and I hear a lot about Keelvar from some of the really big guys that everybody knows the name of, the likes of SAP, and I had a briefing with SAP recently, and we were talking about sourcing optimization, and they talked about Keelvar. They said, well, we partner with Keelvar for that. Why is it that organizations like SAP are recommending Keelvar in this area?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's for the many of the reasons that Radu and I have mentioned already, which is that our ability to model the complexities that teams like Radu's teams are facing in the real world, which is, not being limited on size and scale, and removing those barriers that might exist, and being able to simplify complex award decisions, and being able to take in a variety of different inputs that you might want to collect from your suppliers that are bidding on the business, and model that. So there is some advanced capability that is needed to do that, but you also want to make that simple to use. So, I think that's the advantage that we bring to the table.
Never underestimate user adoption, I think. Back to you, Radu. How did the implementation go? And what support, putting Keelvar on the spot here, and you, what support did you get from Keelvar during that implementation phase?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to to call it implementation, because it was actually very simple, because we just had, I think, 1 hour call with one of the Keelvar engineers, Chris. I'm not sure if he's in this webinar listening, but thank you again, Chris, for the great work you did to launch our first event. So what we did is just 1 hour call with Chris, where we gave him all the let's say RFQ documentation that we normally do. So like RFQ documents, some Excel files with the analysis, how we're doing things right now. And after that, I think we had a 2 or a 3 hour call with him, launching the first event. So it's pretty much the launching a first event, and learning was moving the things that we kept offline, so in files, like Excel docs or Word docs, uploading them into Keelvar, setting up like the bid sheet or the cost calculation formulas, uploading the bidder information and so on, and then just launch. So that was our implementation, let's say 2-3 days of working together with Keelvar, and getting up to speed. There was also on-the-go training. So the Keelvar engineer was just showing us how things can be done. Because I think the great thing about Keelvar is that it's simple and complex at the same time. So it makes processes that are complex simple. So you can easily follow them, and you can easily go through the checkpoints. So you don't have to you're sure you're not going to make a mistake. So it's like having a second pair of eyes, checking everything that you're doing, but in a smart way. When it comes to the adoption, we see for us, there were two main things that were important. Actually, it was the actual savings. I have to go to my president and show him, okay, we reduced by 1% or by 3% logistics cost in transportation or warehousing. But we also handle more complex tenders these days. This is also due to COVID. Things changed drastically in the last 1.5 years. So now we are able to manage more by keeping the same team. So we are, let's say, optimizing our resources internally as well. From let's say, just to give some information about our spend, still at this point in time, the outbound transport is our biggest spend. It's in a couple of hundreds of million euros yearly, and this is also where we see the highest potential for savings. In addition to that, this is also that the transportation tenders are also the most frequent ones, because normally we have yearly contracts, in comparison, for example, with a warehousing contract, where that normally lasts for 3 to 5 years, depends a little bit on the investment and so on. If I may hijack a little bit the webinar, because I just saw a question from Srinkat, actually. He's asking if we considered extending sourcing optimization to other categories. And yes, this is in addition to Jennifer's slide, actually. you could have seen on her slide 4 categories. Well, we are mainly doing the first one, transportation. We can also include warehousing in that area. But since last month, so since May 2021, we have also entered the packaging category. So we have launched our first RFQs in Europe, 3 different countries actually, Slovakia, Poland, and the Netherlands, where we acquire, for example, pallets, all kinds of boxes, labels, foils, everything that needs to be used in a warehouse. When it comes to the benefits, I think I already kind of mentioned them, but the main benefits that we see in our team is that when we have new people joining, not joining the team, but actually joining Keelvar, is that it is very easily to onboard them. We don't really have Keelvar training. We just have someone in our team training someone else. So we also share our knowledge internally and also with our 4PL, which increases our collaboration. It also takes some of our responsibility off our hands. So the system is validating certain things. So we don't really have to spend time to think, okay, did I do that? Or did I do this? Did I fix that? Or yeah, Keelvar is smart enough to do that on our behalf. And our focus is now on the results and not the process. Before that, we were mainly thinking of how we should do this. Well, now it's already established, it's standardized, it's more or less a flexible template. So we have, let's say, more brain capacity to think about the results or the strategy for negotiation and so on, and not really the process.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. It's very tangible as well to see, to see the results. So really appreciate those insights, and it's great news, I think, so far for you at Samsung. How are you going to build on that? You talked about moving into packaging, moving into other areas. How are you going to build on that success that you've already seen, Radu?
Yeah, indeed. So I think that the first year was more kind of like a learning year, when we were just adding more and more RFQs that we were running via Keelvar. And 2021 is pretty much, I would say, a standard, let's say, a standardization year, in the sense that all our RFQs are run now in Keelvar. So all our team members are trained and are at least running one tender in Keelvar. Indeed, we added the packaging category to the portfolio. We also expanded the user pool. So we started with 5 users. I think this was in January 2019, and in September we already added more users. Now we are 15, and most probably we will have to expand to 20. And from my, let's say, personal responsibilities, actually, I want to make sure that all users will be proficient. We still see that now some users are more, let's say, comfortable with Keelvar than the others. And since I think it was March this year, Keelvar launched their university, the so-called called Keelvarsity, which we are very, let's say, grateful for, because now all the information that we need, all the questions that we were asking are can be done via Keelvarsity. So that's a really, let's say, strong point for our users this year. Another point that actually it is important for us, I mentioned standardization. Unfortunately, because of some internal rules, we cannot really directly connect Keelvar or the information from Keelvar to an ERP or a business intelligence tool. So my focus will be to make this connection, to develop an integrated BI solution with the data that we have in Keelvar, because it is quite powerful data that we get from there. Keelvar is already helping us, because I think recently they just launched, let's say, the BI report functionality. So this is also something that we value about Keelvar, is that we have regular discussions with them, going through the process and through the functionalities that Keelvar is using, and working together to develop those functionalities. So we're happy that that we can do that, because both companies, I think, are learning from each other. And the last thing, if I still have a little bit of time,
go for it.
It's the road bot. I know this is still in the development phase. I know there is an ocean bot and an air bot, but we're looking forward to the road bot, because most of our tenders in Europe are for road transport. So this is something that we are, let's say, discussing now with Keelvar to understand what are our needs, what are Samsung's needs, and how they can, let's say, adapt to fulfill those needs through the road bot as well.
Radu, that was really interesting, and as I said before, just really practical and useful. It was real insights, and I thank you so much for those. There's still time. I've got 3 questions come in, but please, I'm going to ask those questions, and if there's any more, please do put them into the Q&A bot, everybody. And I think, Jennifer's gone on camera, so let's be brave and try and make our cameras work. So hi everybody, we're jumping on. So a couple of questions that have come in, and any more, please shout. First of all, Radu, of course, question for you. What was involved in getting, and I think this is a really important point actually, around the suppliers, what was involved in getting the carriers trained on using as part of this new process?
Sorry, Jenny, we lost you. So maybe you can turn off your cam and then repeat the question.
Yeah, I have done it. Yeah, it seems like we're still a bit unstable. So I'll ask the question again. Radu, what was involved in getting the carriers trained on using the tool as part of the new process?
Okay, yeah, it was, so when you join Keelvar as a carrier, as a bidder, the platform, so the interface is quite simple. You have, let's say, RFQ information. That's some information that we normally share, explain how this RFQ is going to be run. You have the messaging function, so it's pretty much, well, if you're using Facebook or WhatsApp, pretty much the same thing that you can do directly with the bidder. So that really eliminates the use of email and, let's say, files going back and forth. There's the bid sheet. So the LSP, the bidder can see immediately what they have to quote, what is there. And there's also the questions that we ask and they need to answer. So it's a very, let's say, straightforward overview where they can just go through. So we didn't really put any effort into, let's say, teaching the bidders. Sometimes when they have questions, they give us a call, but it's not really a technical question. It's more of a RFQ related question, like they're looking at how to interpret some of our let's say, text or the bid sheets and so on. So we didn't really get any, let's say, difficult questions. It's if you are computer savvy, if you're using Facebook or whatever, you can easily use such a platform.
So quite intuitive, which, you know, we talk about the buyer side and how easy it was for Keelvar, but actually, you know, you've not got any sourcing events if the suppliers, the bidders, don't participate. So that's a really interesting question. Got a couple more questions coming in. Thanks for the questions, everyone. Another one coming in. How does intelligent optimization work? This might be one for you, Jennifer. How does intelligent optimization work? Does it require past logistics data?
So I guess, in terms of sourcing optimization, one of the things that folks are often curious about, particularly Radu can probably comment on this as well, particularly if you're moving from a more, kind of basic ERFP or e-sourcing tool, or even just from the world of spreadsheets and email, concerns about, well, how do I get, sourcing optimization can sound a bit intimidating or overwhelming, but that's what technology is for, right? We're supposed to make it simple, and that's the solution aspect of it. Is you don't need to be an expert in combinatorial mathematics in order to use a tool like this. The technology should simplify and abstract away all of that complexity for you. It's certainly, past logistics data, what you really are starting with is just your standard bid sheet, and we would work with you to figure out how you can take that bid sheet and actually even make it better, because you might have been constrained in what your past bid sheet looked like because you didn't have a tool that allowed you to optimize around additional attributes from your suppliers. So you don't really need a lot of past, other than what were you currently doing and what are you looking to do, and our team will work with you to develop what the best event setup should look like, and what that bid sheet should look like, and help coach you through that process. Radu, please chime in on your take on how people can get up to speed on this.
Yeah, indeed. So the sourcing optimization part, I think that's the most complex part that you can, let's say, have in Keelvar. And for that part, you don't really need to have extensive statistics knowledge or whatever. I don't. But what I think it is required is that you have to understand the Keelvar logic. So normally this is something that we do with the Keelvar engineer when we set up an event, and that person explains how you can actually evaluate the event, how you can do your analysis, what kind of conditions you can add. And it's kind of like, it's not really a drag and drop, but it's clicking here and there on several, let's say, input variables, so that you get to a certain, let's say, scenario optimization. So all in all is you need, let's say, input from Keelvar, because this is not something that, you learn in school, for example, but the input that you need is just to understand how the optimizer works.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've got another 3 questions. I'm going to try and get them in quickly. But I'm really delighted that you're asking questions. We've got Radu. Let's make use of having Radu and Jennifer on. Question here is, and again, I think it could be for you, Jennifer. Is the tool used across all product lines for logistics, packaging, and other categories? Any insight on how it helped white goods purchasing? Is that, I mean, Jennifer, I don't know if you want to answer any of that.
I can also try to answer it, actually.
Yeah, please do, Radu.
Because we do use it for all, let's say, product lines for logistics, from mobile phones to bulky products like white goods, refrigerators and washing machines. So they have different characteristics. The value of the products is much higher in a truck full of mobile phones, so different security requirements and so on, compared to just a truck full of refrigerators. So yeah, it is used. The tool doesn't have any restrictions when it comes to products. It's the same, let's say, logic or platform that you use, and you have to do that in your bid sheet. And the second part of the question was how are capacity challenges being handled today? Well, this is something you have. Keelvar has different, let's say, functionalities, and one of them, I think, is I'm not sure if it's called capacity per se, but you can input, let's say, capacity. The bidder can input capacity information. So if this information can be input into Keelvar or in the bid sheet, then this can be used in the sourcing optimizer. But this is normally a strategy that comes from the company. This is it's up to the person to decide how they want to approach that.
One last question, and then any questions that we've not got to, I'm sure Keelvar will answer them directly. So you can see on the last slide there's a webinars@keelvar.com. Please drop any questions you've got to that email address. Last question, and perhaps again, Radu, this is one for you. What was your perception of how welcoming the end users were to this new way of sourcing? So you talked about emails, spreadsheets beforehand, and then you switched to this tool. How was that welcomed to the end users in the organization?
Yeah, it was quite well received, of course, and especially it's the higher management that really likes this, because people don't really are that open to change. So when they're used to doing something for, I don't know, 5-10 years, and then you have to tell them that you have to move everything into this system, they would be a little bit reluctant to do so. So you have to you have to persuade them to do that. So by showing them the benefits, then we persuade them to, let's say, to do their RFQ via Keelvar. And most importantly for us, because of the company structure that we work with the 4PL, then senior stakeholders also have access to the same information. So then reporting is also is much easier, and it is also happening less because we can see in real time everything that is happening. So yeah, I would say that it was well received, and not only by the actual end user, but also by the senior stakeholders.
Fantastic. We've had some great questions. Thank you, Radu. That was really helpful, and spur of the moment questions there. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to you, Radu, for those really interesting insights and experiences. It was a journey, and it was, judging by the amount of people we've had listening to you, it was a really important thing to share. So thank you so much. Jennifer, of course, Keelvar, thank you very much for hosting this and for inviting me along. As I said, anybody that's listening and has got further questions, please contact Keelvar on the email address that you had, webinars@keelvar.com, and I'm sure there'll be more details around getting downloads of this webinar once it's closed. Thank you very much indeed, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Radu. Thank you,
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, folks.
Bye.